Morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Maqbool. I'm from Delhi. It's a capital of India. So, uh, yeah, and I organized this. So basically, I started organizing this Elixir Delhi meetup group because I wanted to learn Elixir. So when I was in school, I was trying to learn these concepts. So it was very complex. So why not just organize a meetup group and bring people there and teach you stuff? So that's why I started this. It's kind of teeny tiny, but still it's there. People hang around up there in the Telegram group, and sometimes we have online things and all. So yeah, this project is a company project where I started to learn Phoenix LiveView, OTP concepts, and different how Ecto and other Phoenix tools, how you pretty much use to build applications. So that's how this came about. So before starting my talk, I want to just give a shout out to Erlang Ecosystem Foundation to sponsoring my travel. So I wouldn't be here without them. So, you can learn more about them through this link to how to get involved. As Sophie said yesterday on her talk, like how awesome Ecosystem Foundation is. So let's dive into my presentation. So the agenda is to just go through the flow, how the app actually works, and see, and afterwards we will see some demo how things works eventually, and then we see what are the stacks we use, then we see code, a ton of code, and hopefully the deployment too. Okay, so high-level application flow. So essentially what is this app is, so you visit the app server, of course, so you go ahead into the URL. Right now it's deployed. I was supposed to deploy it on fly.io. Things didn't work out. So anyway, putting on internet is overrated anyway. So we're gonna just pretend it's on fly.io. So we visit app server, and then it's going to generate a very unique token, so it can do authentication and stuff. And it's better to show how it works. So this is how the apps looks. All of this styling is done by Tailwind, and it's minimal as possible because I'm not a style guy. So you grab the token, paste in the Telegram client, and it does stuff. It did something. I see, yep. So you're saying welcome, okay. So this is how the UI looks like. So you can have a list of nodes you can put in, for example, hello. Something like that. There are other things it can do. So let me try like maybe posting a picture or something. So select photos. Maybe. So this is the image I uploaded from the Telegram. So it allows us to upload those images and others. Thank you. So you can have like a bunch of files you can upload, or you can add a bunch of tags. So for example, if you want to tag this picture, for example, so big Elixir 2020, you can just add tags, and you can filter through this tag as well. So only those things those with that particular tag are going to be shown up there. And yeah, nice image. You can do logout and stuff. And you can even select multiple nodes and either delete or add nodes to them at one time. So this also what you can do is to write a full-fledged, there is added a plugin to allow us to text editing to insert text content. Previously, the plan was to this part, the text editing to be distributed, but okay, whatever. So you can insert things and add images, files, and over here and style. So this is all the app is. So this is how it works. So there are two parts to it. There's a LiveView front end, which is used to showcase all the nodes. And either through a LiveView front end, you can create node, or most useful would be to use through a Telegram. So you can imagine a scenario where you want to take some nodes and you deployed it somewhere and you are chatting to your bot and it's taking notes to it, and it can either you can keep it on through Telegram, so it makes sense. So there are two ways to communicate to the backend server. So let's start with the code part. So I just like to start, when I try to understand any new code base, I try to look at this application.ex, or essentially what this module is tell you all the tools our runtime needs to start before the application could start. So for example, the node.repo, the repo is a way to communicate to our database. So it's in a separate process. So the best part about the OTP is the supervisor. So this is, you declare your supervisor's children's. So each of the children here, written children mentioned are like, they are all separate. They are not connected to each other. So if one of them crash, the OTP runtime going to do magic something and going to restart that process. So it's really very interesting. Same, I need some Popsup, so if you want to do some real-time communication, I'll show some stuff which using Popsup to how it's very simple to do the real-time update between the different instances of the browser tabs across different browsers. Even it's going to work, and some authentication. We're not going to look into it. So this node supervisor is for one, which means essentially any one of the OTP process, the children process is going to crash or something bad happens, only that will going to restart. There are other strategies in OTP, but for example, if one of them crash, there is another one for all others. So if one of them crash, restart everything. But here we stick to this. So the main brain of this application is the Telegram thing, the API connection. So it's backed by something called a custom bot supervisor itself, which is part of this. We get added dynamically to when we start our application those supervisor get started itself. So let's take a look at that particular supervisor. So this is very, very bare bones supervisor. So essentially, okay, I want to create a new supervisor, and I give a bunch of children to it. And the strategy here is one for all. So if any one of them crashes, okay, restart this entire part of this. So it's very, very nice way to like logically group processes in a very nice way. So you can imagine a scenario where you have a big top-level supervisor. Within that, there is another supervisor and bunch of actors. So these two children are the bot, polar, and bot. These are gen servers. So what essentially a gen server is in Elixir ecosystem, its idea is for example, we want to do something concurrently. So why we are even using Elixir is for concurrency, because it allows you to do multiple things, take all advantage of all the nice cores. And so for that, we need to create a new process. But this process is going to start, you're going to spawn a process, you're going to do the task, and you're going to die. But we want a long-lived process. That's where the idea of a gen server, because it allows you to create long-lived processes. So the first one is the bot gen server. What bot gen server is going to, its design in a way is to ask different types of, handling different types of messages. It could be messages like a document, or it could be, so initially when this bot or gen server is going to start, it's going to initialize itself, okay, all the details it needs, and it's going to subscribe this, where is the real time this, okay, I want to subscribe to this particular topic, and this, the name of the Popsup itself, and it's going to subscribe, do some authentication, get that state, and then when I make update or something, we want to send, for example, the start auth key as well. So it checks, okay, whether these authentication keys are the similar kind of ideas. So for example, messages, you can imagine a message could be of a document, others. So we are handling all those different types of images right now. Only these images going to be. So when we can get one of these images, we're going to send a reply, okay, we've got a picture. So let's go back to the bot poller, the bot supervisor. This is like a very bare bone gen server. What essentially this gen server does is like, hey, do you have any update? And it's keep doing, it's essentially what it's doing is polling stuff. Okay, do you have something? Do you have something? It's not the best case scenario where you keep asking stuff, but in the simple to learning opportunity, it does kind of make sense to, okay, after it's going to send itself a message after 0 seconds means, okay, do you have something for me? Do you have something for me? And you're going to check through the module. So, and to communicate to the bot itself, I'm using a Telegram client written by someone from Elixir community, because I don't wanted to write my own client. So, which is just a wrapper around that tool, like you pass a key and you make a request, okay, get me something, give me information about it. Do you have any updates? Means you send a new text or added a new image or some variant of or file or something similar. So it's going to, the bot poller and the bot is going to internally call these wrapper functions and do the thing. Now this is whole of the backend part of like the server part. Now the more interesting part is the LiveView. That's why we are here. So let me just show you around the router so we can have any idea what's going on. Then we will dive into the LiveView thing. So standard router file to declare our routes. So we have a page LiveView and a note LiveView and other stuff to dealing with the sessions and files. Don't gonna look at only this part. So page live, and it's going to have an index function. So just take a look at page live. So the structure of a LiveView application is like you declare what are the module is going to start. Okay, this is a whatever the LiveView name is, and it's going to invoke this callback this function called mount, where it's going you can have like anything you want to start before your the LiveView session, if it makes sense. A LiveView session starts. If you want to set any state, you want to do, for example, I'm subscribing to some Popsup events for like some user ID if there is any update from a particular user, for example, or if I'm editing some EndNote or searching, for example, the search, all those. So these are like assigns. So we're setting a bunch of assigns so that they are available within the template so we can render them. So for example, the edit node, or you can imagine another event called deleting a note. So when we delete this handle event, for example, saving or searching or something like that. So let's take a look at the first page LiveView hex file. And here we have our if all things authenticated, and then see. So the main page, for example, this is powered by this particular LiveView template, page LiveView hex. So where we have a very straightforward form, I'm not using, of course, it's powered by the Tailwind. So for the styling, you can give a particular class names and it's going to do the styling. And we have, so the area where we want to post a note. So we create another form for that. And then when we submit, it's going to invoke this sub-save handle event where we're taking the user ID, which user is essentially is making the notes, and we pass this through the context function for the notes. So for that, if you see, we are essentially have notes have like a text, images, and others. So if you look at the modeling, how model the app itself. So a note, this is a standard notes schema for the Acto. So a note could have a title and a body. It can belongs to a many user and can have many tags. So it's many relations, or it can have many files, and we can add a tag to it so that all this change set when the things changes and pass through the change set, so that when we insert, so all the validation is done through this for the nodes. And similarly, we have for the node tags and this is like a junction for making connections, so nodes can have many tags. And similarly for the files, and it belongs so that a node has a file kind of connection. So when we ingest a node, we need a user ID. So so on top of the schema itself, we have outerly a context function to deal with all the things we have to do to relate it to nodes. For example, we want to ingest a node, or we want to list a node, we want to delete a node. All those things are in this context module. So they're dealing with all this data. So for example, the first part will be when we save it, the ingest node, it's going to take the user ID on all the text. We're going to do some manipulation to it. And then finally, it's going to do is, here's the LiveView part is like, okay, I'm created a note. I want to let people know a note has been created or something happens to a note. And so that those other processes which are listening to it can take a call of it. So for example, if we see, so this functionality, for example, provided by the Phoenix Popsup LiveView, the Popsup, this allows you to have like instantaneously ability to have, say, a kind of a refresh kind of thing. Okay, this particular process is also listening to some events, for Popsup events, and this also listening to it, and something happened, and it's updated itself through this Popsup feature provided by the Phoenix. And similarly, we want to list something. So then, let's go back to the LiveView. And so each of these nodes are one individual LiveView component. So you don't need, we're not repeating anything. So we have our one very small components, and you're passing those assigns for those specific ones, and it's able to. So we're going to take a look at how these components. So at the end of the hex template, we call this function and provide like all the signs it needed. And if you go to the node live file, and where we are doing those things which are related to nodes specific, not the page itself. So for example, all those how many those images and the chain sets and ability to upload an image, all those things are handled here. For example, we want to add a tag to a node. Those are done by this LiveView in a module. And if you look at the node live hex file, so this is a one component, and within this have a list of this is like one small LiveView it's a component, and where we are like doing all the note taking stuff. For example, uploading the images within. So this part of the app, this is handled by the node live component. And you can bunch of, like for example, you want to delete. So this interactions, for example, so I added an image, and this part, like this interaction, a little bit of JavaScript, I just added the Alpine.js. So just for the sake of it, just add another thing, for the sake of learning. So this interaction, confirm or cancel, these all are handled by the Alpine. So essentially what's Alpine is you declared some things, like I want to show this, and it's going to flip a switch or something like that based on that, and you're able to do this. So for example, initially it's going to be, so when a button is clicked, do this action, done that, the switch flip to the false, so it's going to be, it's no longer going to be shown. So this part is done by the Alpine.js, and yes. And that's a part the LiveView. And so let's take a look at the deployment part. So for deployment, I was working on a Docker file, which somehow there was some issue. So it's a standard. I'm trying to generate a standard mixed release, Phoenix release, so that I can just put on anywhere. Pretty much, it's going to be a very self-contained mixed releases. Releases in general, it's a very powerful tooling right now added to the Elixir ecosystem. So we don't need to do all this. It's going to generate our production app itself, and you can just start on a VPS or anything else. But so these are standard Docker file to configure the app and building. So it's doing multi-stage to like one stage to build and then move to the other parts and doing deployment of the stuff and starting the application itself. So these are the resources you can take a look. I gave a talk last year about Gen server. So if you're not experienced with Gen server, what it is, so I try to explain the Gen server. So if you want to, you can check it out. So that's all my talk. Thank you for listening.